Now I know what you're thinking. Mega Man 7? That shitty game? Just hear me out before you go bashing the game or my opinions of it. Mega Man 7 is considered by most Mega Man fans the black sheep of the original series, along with Mega Man 8 and to some extent Mega Man Soccer. However, I feel most of these people didn't give it a proper chance. I actually enjoyed this game. In fact, I've completed it several times. Almost as many times as I've completed Mega Man 2 or Mega Man X. So why have so many fans dismiss this game, and why the hell do I enjoy it so much? Well, we're about to find out. The story begins where Mega Man 6 left off. Wily has finally been captured and sent to prison, and the world is safe again thanks to Mega Man. However, a mere 6 months after his capture, Dr. Wily's mother computer has awakened and activated 4 robots sleeping in chambers, since apparently he programmed the computer to activate if inactive for a long period of time. Could you imagine if computers could actually do that? Oh man, my torrent has had no active seeders for the last 3 hours. Seeders, activate! All joking aside, the robots set out on a rampage in the city, and who is on their way to stop them? Why, none other than the Blue Bomber himself! However, the robots have helped Dr. Wily escape, thus begins the intro stage. This is where the changes in gameplay start to take effect. Previous games in the original series went straight to the boss selection screen. However, in Mega Man 7, much like its brother game Mega Man X, there's an intro stage that is meant to help explain more of the story and give the player a chance to get used to the gameplay. The controls here are simple. The D-pad moves Mega Man, the Y button fires Mega Man's weapon, and the B button is the jump button. In addition, Slide, Mega Buster, and Rush Coil have been given to you right off the bat. Near the end of the intro stage, we meet a mysterious new character known as Bass, or Bass. Okay, the pronunciation of this character's name has been debated for a long time. I'm going to assume that since his Japanese name is Forte, and his dog's name is Treble, that his name is in fact Bass. However, you could also say it's pronounced Bass due to the fact that his helmet has a fish fin shape, and in Mega Man and Bass, he walks like he has fish on his feet. Not to mention, the first time we heard his name spoken with English dialogue, it was Bass. But that was a very poor dub. So you can count it, but you also can't count it at the same time. Shut up! Anyways, back to the point. Bass starts off as a mysterious character, but later it turns out that he's, spoiler alert, a robot built by Dr. Wily. Shocker. Anyways, this leads us to our next change in the franchise, the boss selection screen. As you've probably noticed, there are only 4 bosses to choose from. This was an interesting concept Capcom came up with, challenging the player to make a careful decision on what they should do to complete the game. It also made it so that the rest of the robot masters needed to be unlocked. This would continue on to Mega Man 8, Mega Man and Bass, and the Mega Man Zero series. Another new feature in the game is the inclusion of the shop. Throughout the levels, you would collect bolts from defeating enemies. These bolts could be used as currency in the shop to buy several items. In addition, finding the Super Bolt unlocked even more items in the shop for purchase. Probably one of the most influential changes to the franchise was the Super Adapter. By collecting the letters R, U, S, and H, you would gain access to the Super Adapter, or S-Adapt for short. Like in Mega Man 6, the S-Adapt was used to increase Mega Man's capabilities, such as a jetpack thruster and a rocket arm attack. But like the Rush Adapters in Mega Man 6, it also has its weaknesses. For instance, you can't slide while in S-Adapt form, and your range on the rocket arm is limited. But the range could be increased by finding or purchasing an upgrade. Speaking of Rush, he also now has a new mode. In addition to Rush Coil and Rush Jet, you could also unlock Rush Search. Rush Search's main function is to locate hidden items or Easter eggs. While it's a cool idea, it's only ever needed 3 times in the game, and the items you can find with it can be purchased at the shop after finding the Super Bowl. Another new item that ended up being underappreciated was the Proto Shield. This item was your reward for finding Proto Man's 3 secret hideouts and defeating him in an all-out battle. The Proto Shield's main function is to add extra protection from enemy projectiles, however it's rarely used. By the time I get it in the game, I've either forgot I have it or I don't use it, or I'm using S-Adapt. It also doesn't help that you can't use a special weapon and the Proto Shield at the same time. A good idea would have been to make it a default item that Mega Man would automatically equip when the stage begins. Alright, now on to the juicy stuff. The graphics in this game are spectacular. The transition from 8-bit to 16-bit is actually rather nice here. Sprites are animated well, the background and foregrounds look great and don't really distract from the gameplay, and the characters look much nicer, being in a higher bitrate and size, not to mention the upgrade in colors from 53 colors to 32,768 colors. Wow. Now that's color. Now here's a big gripe I hear a lot about this game. The characters being too big and the screen being too small. Coming from playing Mega Man X when I first played this game, I can see why someone would have complaints. But honestly, it never bothered me. Like I mentioned before, the bigger characters are actually nice because they more accurately represent what they're supposed to be. Besides, doesn't having a smaller room provide more of a challenge? You've got less space to work with and strategize, much like the boss select screen. The music of Mega Man 7 is fantastic. Capcom has once again outdone themselves in the music department. What's great is that since this is the Super Nintendo, the sound options are expanded, allowing for more audio layers, instruments, and of course, the stereo sound that the Super Nintendo was known for. As for the sound effects, they aren't bad. Most of them were upgrades from the previous game's sounds, and they actually sound fairly good. However, some of them just feel like they were made because a sound for something didn't exist yet in the previous games, but they still sound alright, though the buster charging sound can get annoying. Most of the core gameplay from the previous games was left intact. Running, gunning, sliding, mega busting, and rush features were all pretty much the same. Like I mentioned before, due to the bigger sprites and smaller screen sizes, it does cause you to play differently than, say, one of the 8-bit titles. But like I said, this doesn't hurt the game in any way. It actually makes it a little more challenging, as I've said a million times by now. As for the bosses, it varies based on where you are in the game. Like in most Mega Man games, the Robot Masters won't give you too much trouble. Their patterns aren't hard to follow, and if you have a good strategy, you can get through them fairly easily. The real challenge lies in the Wily Castle boss battles. While these patterns aren't hard to follow, even with the boss weaknesses, these battles can be a pain, especially if you're new to the game. It only takes a few mistakes against these guys that can cause you easy deaths, but probably the hardest of them all is Dr. Wily himself. His first form won't give you much difficulty, and most skilled players will be able to pass it without taking any damage. The second form, however, is the hardest Dr. Wily fight in the entire series. It is extremely important that you dodge his energy orbs, especially the ice and fire ones, since they cause the most damage. His weakness is the Wild Coil, and the strategy I use is to charge up the Wild Coil and unleash it on him. If it misses because he's out of range, quickly change to Freeze Cracker to shoot him from an angle. It would also be important that you bring 4 energy tanks, a few weapon tanks, and an S tank, as you probably will receive a ton of damage from this boss and may run out of weapon energy quick. If you manage to defeat him, you'll get quite an interesting ending. I'm not going to spoil it, but it might leave you questioning certain aspects of Mega Man's personality.
The game also contains a few secrets and Easter eggs. The first is an easy one. Go over to Shade Man and hold the B button before pressing start. If you do, you'll get to hear this. Does that music sound familiar? Well, that's because it's music from the first stage of Ghosts and Goblins, an awesome but difficult Capcom action game. Oh yeah, I reviewed it too. Another cool secret is a 2-player versus mode. In order to access this, you must first put in a certain password, then both players 1 and 2 need to hold the L and R buttons and then press start. If you've done this correctly, you'll have unlocked this mode. Here, you and a friend can play as either Mega Man or Bass and duke it out, bot to bot.
All in all, Mega Man 7 is a fantastic game, and I urge all Mega Man fans to play and complete it, at least once. While the cartridges might seem a little pricey, and there isn't a release for it yet on the Virtual Console, the game is available on the Mega Man 10th Anniversary Collection, available for Xbox, PlayStation 2, and GameCube. That's really all I have to say about this game. If you've watched this review, please feel free to leave me constructive feedback, and if you liked the video, please comment, rate, and subscribe for further content. This is Zeromaster, signing off.
Hey guys, Zero here. Thank you very much for watching my review. If you couldn't tell, this is actually a re-edit of a review I did 3 years ago. I missed a few things, so I decided to spruce it up a bit. Now, if you'd like to see my newest review, you'll either see a link on screen or a link down below you can click on depending on where you're viewing this. I'd also really appreciate it if you subscribe to my YouTube channel, also located on screen, or down below, so you can stay up to date with my upcoming reviews. And don't forget to check out rivercitygamers.wordpress.com for great content not only from myself, but many other content creators. Thanks again, guys. I'll see you next time.